I've got some Game Boys. They were given to me by a console shop that he'd acquired over the time, and most of them he said they got screen issues. Not done a huge work with these original Game Boys before, but I'm gonna see what I can do with them. A lot of them in reasonable state. Few missing battery covers, but the idea is to shove some batteries in, put a game in there. So I'm just looking for a game in one of my Game Boys that I've got, looking for a suitable game. Notice on this one that look at the screen, it's a completely different colour, which threw me. My original Game Boy is very green, whereas that one on the desk there is almost like black. So just looking to see if they're the same model. And I also compared it to some of the other Game Boys that they'd sent, and what I decided is probably not to start with this one, because so the screen was different. So I thought maybe I'll put this one to the back of the queue and start with another one. What it was in the end is that I found that actually this one had some work done. It's had another screen fitted and also a backlight kit fitted as well. I'm just cycling through the other Game Boys and they're all green. So I'm going to start on a different one, I think, and come back to this one. I said I've not really worked on these before, so don't really want to start with what could be a difficult one. I'm doing the audio to this video, like most of my videos, after the event. Main reason for that is just because I've got other stuff going on that's causing noise. So while I do these, I'm typically watching YouTube or catching up on some TV. I'll listen back to the audio and I might put some comments in as to actually what I'm listening to. But yeah, that's why typically I'm not just sat there in a quiet room doing this stuff. So I tend to do the audio afterwards. So let's get started. Let's get some batteries in this thing and see what it does or doesn't do. Right, turns on, but yeah, as it's sort of expected by the guy in the shop, said that most of them had some sort of screen issue. This one seems to have a lot of vertical lines, so the contrast is fairly all the way up there. That's why most of the screen is dark. You can just make out a Nintendo logo, so if you boot one of these things up with no game in it, you should get a Nintendo logo. But you've got a couple of white vertical lines. So this is what I was sort of expecting and what I'd prepped for, and looking around on YouTube, fairly common. There's a ribbon cable inside the machine that connects the screen board to the actual LCD screen, and I guess over time the contacts between the two just start to break away. So the idea is to heat up that ribbon cable very, very gently, and just sort of finesse those lines back. Best to work with it on, best to work with it with full contrast on the screen, so you can see it in that sort of mode where the screen's all black and you can easily see those lines. Did have a game in and it wasn't actually booting. I just saw the Nintendo logo, so I've just took the game in and out a few times just to see if I can get it to boot. And yeah, okay, so there you go. So there was a bit of oxidization, I guess, on the contacts, which isn't unusual. And just by taking the game in and out a few times, it's cleared that up and made some good contacts. So the game boots, so that's good. So I just need to sort out this screen. So to get into one of these, there's 6 screws. They're tri-wing screws. I think tri-ring is pretty standard for Nintendo devices. So these screws here on the outside are all tri-wing. Four there on the shell and two inside the battery compartment. Once the case screws are out, be careful because there's a ribbon cable that connects the CPU board to the screen board. Very, very simple to remove. Just be careful as you do it. Don't apply too much pressure, but try and get an even grip where you're sort of gripping the majority of the cable, not in a single point, and just pull it away from that connector. The board itself looks clean, so the next step is to remove this display board. These are just normal fillet screws. I can't remember how many there are, but there's a lot of them. It might be about 8. The other thing to note here, not so much when you're undoing it, but when you're doing it up, is just below the ribbon cable there is a hole. You can just see it there at the top of the picture. There is a hole that looks like it takes a screw, but there is a little diagram that sort of says, no screw. There's a picture of a screw with a cross for it. Do not put a screw in there when you're putting it back together. So the screen board just lifts out. Not always as easy as that, I came to find. Sometimes you may need to sort of twist the shell gently, corner to corner, just to break up some of the sort of sticky stuff that's holding the two together. But yeah, as long as you're careful, go slow, it does come out fairly easy. On this side you've got the screen, you've got the ribbon cable, and you've got the contacts for the various controls, and you've also got the speaker. So just trying to work out how I'm going to actually work on the device. So I've got hold of the CPU part, the one that takes the batteries. I'm just going to connect the screen back up to it now I've removed the shell from it. That ribbon cable, I think you got it a zebra connector. It just pushes back in. Again, just take your time, do it nice and gently, but push it in, it will go in fairly easy. Been a bit overcautious on this first one. And then I'm going to lay it out like that so I can get the batteries in there and I can see the screen and work on the screen at the same time. Power button's a little bit of a faff. It is sort of hidden by the CPU shell, but it is accessible. And then I'm just turning the contrast all the way up so it's nice and defined and shows exactly where it is that I need to work on. So first thing to do is at the bottom of the screen, so between the screen and that ribbon cable, there's a black strip. That's a piece of like rubber that's been stuck down. That just needs to come off, and you need to remove any glue that's remaining underneath that. Try and do this just with some tweezers. Just want to be a little bit careful because I don't want to get right underneath the ribbon strip. I just want to remove the piece of rubber. Again, first one, still sort of finding my way here. Been probably a little bit overcautious, just trying to work out exactly how it's stuck on. Managed to remove most of it, but it left the double-sided sticky tape, so it's just now a question of peeling that off as best as I can, just so it's nice and clean now. I've just got the ribbon cable left there at the bottom of the screen. Soldering iron, set to about 350 degrees Celsius. Again, as I said, this is the first one, so at this point not quite sure what I'm doing, but I've now done a few more of these, and you do sort of get a feel for it as to how much pressure to apply, where to apply the heat. Obviously what you don't want to do is you don't want to get your soldering iron on the LCD screen itself, because you end up potentially melting the screen and causing a problem. So all I'm doing is slowly going over the ribbon cable with very little pressure, say 350 degrees Celsius, and I'm just trying to feel for where, so that white line, that white vertical line is what I'm trying to bring back. I'm just trying to get a feel for where it is. Now it's not necessarily directly underneath it, it can be a little bit off to one side. So I'm heating up the ribbon cable all around it, try and get an even heat so I'm not creating too much of a heat spot in one place. Not going too far down. I mean, the only area that I'm working on pretty much is right up to the bottom of the LCD and to in line with pretty much where the white plastic support is. So at the moment, not really having a lot of success. Still trying to feel my way around. There you can just sort of see there, just getting a twitch of the line come back. You can see it started to lose a line a little bit further to the edge. Now, looking at it now, this is I mean, most of these come back fairly quickly. I did have one that was a bit of a pain and did need a lot of work, but it is more around feeling and just by experience understanding where to put the pressure, where to put the heat, how long to leave the heat on, and that just comes with experience. Like I say, if you think about doing this for the first time, the good thing is that as long as you take your time, as long as you're not putting too much heat in, as long as you're not catching the screen, it is achievable. It's definitely doable for someone doing this the first time. It's just going to take a little bit longer than once you've got that feeling. Also, it's a combination of putting heat on and leaving it. So don't keep putting heat on, you know, to the point where you know, you're just going to burn through that cable. As you start seeing it come back, then take the soldering iron off, let it rest. Sometimes when it's resting, those lines will come back as it starts to cool down. Then if it doesn't, go back to it. Or you might get all of the lines filled in, and then as it cools down, the line might reappear again. So yeah, just don't keep going at it. Every now and again, stop and rest. So I've got one side dialed in there. I'm now tackling the other side. That failure starts a lot sort of closer to the centre of the screen. So just working from the centre, just trying to get those lines back, applying the heat, and then working towards the outside edge. And that's it. That is the process of trying to get these back. Don't worry too much if lines reappear in the area that you've done. Just go back over it. A little bit of heat, and then just keep working it. So I'll speed this bit up now. You sort of get the idea. Just working through it, exactly the same. The only thing I did in a little bit that was different is I just tried to, as I was applying heat, I just tried to apply a little bit of pressure. You can try and apply a little bit of pressure to the screen and just hold the screen in a certain position as you heat it, see if you have more success with that. You can also try and apply some pressure to the ribbon cable as well as you heat it and just see if you have some success with that. But don't forget, every now and again, just stop, pause, let it cool down and see if that brings anything back. But I'm nearly there. Just got a couple of last few lines to do. Again, not doing anything different, just working through it, just trying to get them all to come in and then obviously stay in. I guess the big question is, you know, if we do get all these in, if we do get all these lines back, how long does this fix last for? Now, at the moment, I don't know that. These ones that I repaired a couple of weeks ago. They are still working fine. But is this a permanent fix? Are you going to get a similar issue in a lot shorter time? You know, if this can last a few years, then obviously brilliant. But at the moment, I can't give you much feedback around how permanent this fix is. Patience is key for this. As you can see, do not get frustrated when areas that you've worked on suddenly start getting the lines. Going back over those areas, typically they need a lot less work, a lot less heat to bring them back. But it is just patience, and that's why just saying doing this while you're sort of catching up on some TV or something is ideal. But definitely just keep stopping, just keep pausing, keep taking stock of where you are. I'm just leaving my finger there as it cools down. So this one is really long-winded, but I think it's important because this was my first attempt, and if you haven't got 6 or 7 Game Boys that have been given to you by a shop, then it's probably going to be your first attempt as well, just trying to get your Game Boy back to life. So you do get better with it as time goes on, but yeah, patience, getting a feel for it, a mixture of heating it up, cooling it down, holding it in places, and some go easier than others. But that's it. I've now got it to the state that I'm fairly happy with, although as I move things, you can see that line was coming back, although it's now gone again. It's only cooled down a bit more. I've just pressed the top where the rubber's going to go back, and that doesn't seem to make any difference. So I'm going to go for this. I'm going to see if that sorted it. So I need to get some double-sided tape, put that over the top, and then stick that rubber piece back. I'm using some really thin double-sided tape here that I use for mobile phone repairs, but later on, actually, what I found easier is just going for some thicker double-sided tape and then just cutting it down to size. So I've got a piece that lets me sort of get 3 strips in one. So either or works, whatever you've got. If you need to cut it to size, it's not a problem. Just going to do a quick check before I stick this thing down. Make sure that no lines have crept back in, which they haven't, so that's good. And not the end of the world if you have stuck it down, and they have. It's fairly easy to remove again, but just for the sake of a quick check, worth doing. Sticking it down, I'm not applying too much pressure. Again, I don't really want to risk moving anything that I've done. And then a check after it's been stuck down. Make sure it's all good. While I'm here, I might as well give the contacts a clean, just using some IPA, just some really light cleaning. Not a fan of I don't have a problem with this Game Boy. It was okay, so I don't really want to risk taking too much off of those contacts. So just get them a little bit clean while I'm here. And the same for the little carbon pieces on the actual rubber buttons themselves as well. Just give them a clean. And screw the board back to the case with the Phillips screws. Remember, don't put the screw in the one hole where that picture says don't put a screw here. So on this Game Boy, the screen protector was off. Now I thought I would use some sort of general purpose glue. It's fairly light. It's easy to get off if you need it. I probably wouldn't use it again. Wasn't a fan. So I don't know what I'd try next. I definitely probably try and clean the old glue from the Game Boy, and maybe use a bit of double-sided tape. I think I would try next. Yeah, I think they were going to sort of reshell a lot of these, and you know, where things were scratched, replace a lot of these protectors anyway. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend using glue on the screen. You can see as I press it down, you can see there's a couple of light grey marks. I think it's actually the glue actually marked the screen, or reacted to the paint or whatever that covering is on the screen. So do not use glue. So that's the screen reconnected, just holding the case together. Gonna quickly try a game and just make sure that everything's still good. And turn down the contrast now. All looks good, so I'll get the case screws in. And then just another final test, just to make sure it's all good. Yeah, happy with that. No lines, so I am going to call that one fixed. So that's 1 for 1 so far. Right, on to the next one. Alright, battery's in, game in, turned it on. I can see I've got some line issues again, and that is garbled. So that's not right. Take the game out, put it back in a few times. That worked on the last one. Any better? Yeah, I can actually read Nintendo, but it's still a bit garbled. So I'm going to give the edge cleaner, the edge connector, sorry, a clean. Can't see anything that's actually stuck inside there. So I took the batteries out before I do this, and all I'm doing here is using a credit card style piece of plastic, bit of J-cloth on it, taped up nice and tight, soaking that in contact cleaner, and I'm just going to use that, put that in and out a few times, just to try and get those contacts on the edge connector nice and clean. So there you go, that's the card that I'm using. It's just soaked in some contact cleaner, and just gently rubbing it backwards and forwards to clean those contacts. I'll give it another try. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, got the full logo there, so that seems to be a bit happier. Game's running, but got the lines on the screen. Not that many on this one, just a couple of lines down one side. But it just looks like maybe one row, possibly two. So let's get inside it and do the same thing. So just fly through this because we've already seen this. The only thing I did different on this one is I tried to remove, well I removed the screen board with the CPU board still attached. I would not recommend doing this in the future. It's just not worth it for the stress that you're putting on that ribbon cable and the effort that it takes to remove it. Just remove it. It's just not worth the risk of you causing a problem with that cable. Don't forget to take the black rubber off, and any sticky tape as well. It's not worth trying to heat it up through that stuff, it just doesn't work. When I got to this point, obviously I noticed there's a lot more lines than what I had when I first started, so just by taking it out and moving it, it's worsened the issue. So same as before, heat soldering iron up to 350 degrees Celsius, just waiting for it to get up to temperature, and I'm just going to slowly work through those lines. Make sure the end's nice and clean. Remember, patience is key, so cup of tea while you're doing it goes down a treat. Oh, and got to leave that tea bag in for that extra caffeine hit. Once I was happy with that, just clean the button contacts again. Just kept checking it. I didn't want to close it up and find out that it still had an issue. So in this case, one of the lines had come back, so a little bit more work around that. Again, just a combination of heating it up and letting it cool down. Just some further testing. Stripped back this time. Used a thicker piece of double-sided tape and cut it to size. And then just stuck that back over the top. And again, tested it after I'd stuck it down again. More testing. And then on the reassembly, I spent a bit of time cleaning the D-pad on this one. It was a bit nasty. Just scraping away some of that old finger crud. And then reassembling everything, and more testing. So that's it with the case back on. Full contrast, seems to show no broken lines. So it's got a game back in now, and just reducing the contrast down just to make sure the game plays okay. And the screen looks good, which it does. So I'm going to call that one fixed as well, so that is 2 for 2. Next one, let's speed this up. So, game in, batteries in, test. Okay, couple of missing lines on the screen again. But that line's just gone. Actually seems okay now. Just messing with the contrast. Yeah, that line seems to have fixed itself. Controls are okay. Let's just try a different game. I'm just going to try Tetris. That looks okay. Again, full contrast. It seems okay. Again, no idea how long it's going to last, but I'm going to mark this one as fixed. Okay, next one. Batteries in, game in, turn on. Wow, that's a lot of lines. It's a bit different with this one. Opening it up, there is some corrosion damage to the board. Doesn't look too bad. It's centered around a screw and those metal clips. So I'm just going to separate the board. Just want to check under that big copper, I don't know what it is a grounding plate maybe? Just going to lift it up just on the edge and have a look at the tracks underneath it. Just make sure that I can't see any damage under there. Maybe if water's got under there and it's just been sat, then maybe some corrosion, but that didn't actually look too bad under there at all. So I think I'll just clean things up and give it a test. So start with the vinegar to neutralise the alkaline of the battery, and then just going over that and just rinsing it all out with IPA. Cleaned up okay. Didn't seem to be too much damage. There was a large part of the board near that screw that had damaged, but it didn't seem to affect anything. So I set about trying to repair the screen. And with this one, I wasn't really getting anywhere fast. The lines, some of the lines are coming back, but at this far end of the screen, no matter what I tried, I just could not get the lines to stay, could not get the picture to show on the ends of the screen. So I had a closer look, and on the board, as well as those fingers that I've been working on, there were some more sort of zebra stripe connections to the side, and on closer inspection of those, there was some really bad corrosion just next to the ribbon cable. So again, started working on that, started cleaning that up, but after some time it was quite apparent that the damage was just too bad. It had corroded the connections, it had caused problems with the ribbon cable. Not taking all those ribbon cables off, I did try to remove it using solder, but it was not an easy job at all. And in the end, I just could not get a decent repair on this at all. So it got to the point where it just wasn't worth spending any more effort on it. The actual Game Boy itself plays okay, it's just the screen. So recommendation for this one would be to replace the actual screen. Now when you buy a replacement screen now from somewhere like AliExpress, they actually send you a complete replacement screen board as well. Oh, that's my phone. Yeah, so it's just not worth it. Might as well just get a replacement screen board. That they're not too much, and then obviously you get the advantage of having a backlight as well. So in the end, I just called this one. It was a good experience to try and repair it and to learn a little bit more about how they're connected, but yeah, it just wasn't worth the time spent on it. So unfortunately, this one is a bust. So back to this one. This is one that I picked up at the start and I didn't like the look of, because the screen looked different. So it's got a big black line down the right hand side. So I'm just going to take the cartridge out, plug it back in, make sure that all the connectors are good, make sure that's not potentially what the issue is. But that line is still there. But Oh, that screen, I'm just sort of noticing just how bright that screen is compared to the other Game Boys. And this is where it's sort of dawning on me as to, okay, right, that's why it looks different. This screen is backlit, so this isn't a standard screen. Someone has put in an aftermarket screen into this device with a backlight. So this will be interesting, because is that going to be a similar fix to the others, or is this going to be something very different? So let's open it up and have a look. So getting into this one, straight away notice that the speaker wire, well actually one of the speaker wires is completely missing, so there should be 2 wires there. It's only got one. There's one wire that's completely gone. It's not connected at the speaker end, and it's not connected at the board end, so that will need fixing. The screen itself doesn't look too different. We've got a couple of extra wires there which are obviously feeding the power for the backlight, but on the whole, very similar design. Alright, let's look at this the speaker. So just desoldering both points where the speaker connects to, so both the where the wire is and also where the wire isn't. But if you notice, when I desoldered where the wire was, it either lifted the pad or the pad wasn't there previously. But we've got that to fix now, because there's no pad on the top end of that board. You can just see it there. So the one near the outside of the board, you can see the solder circle around the hole, which is the pad, and then the other one is completely missing the pad. So what I decided to do here is just scrape the trace away. So you can see the actual track lifting up there. Just scraping away the solder mask, going right back down to the copper, and that's going to give me something to solder the wire to. So I'm just going to put the wire through the hole and then solder it to the tracks. So find a suitable bit of the wire to replace the one that's missing, and just solder it to the speaker. Just took that off a little bit too fast there. So reheating it up, and this time leave it in place long enough for the solder just to set. Okay, happy with that. And then just feed the wires through the holes. Doesn't really matter which side these wires go to, it's only a mono speaker. So just feeding through, and then I'm going to lay the wire onto the actual track that I'd scraped away, and then since I've cleaned with IPA as well. So I've got a nice clean track there to solder to. Bit of flux. And then this one, I'm just soldering that wire to the track itself. Okay, just letting it take, and then I'll solder the other wire. Okay, nice, got sound. So that's the speaker done. Have a look at this line now. So the line's still there. Unfortunately, it's not managed to fix itself while I've been messing about. This time it was actually easier to work with turning the contrast down, so you've just got a full backlight white screen, and then you can see those black lines. So at the moment, the theory is just try and do what I've done with all the other Game Boys, and just apply heat around that area that's got that line to see if I can get, see if they'll disappear. Bit of pressure made no difference. So as I apply heat around the area, I'm losing other lines. So it seems to be fairly similar. All the other lines are sort of coming in and out. Again, just using the same technique, applying heat, taking it away. But that big thick line, nothing's changing. So again, no matter what I do, nothing seems to make a difference. Leaving it on a bit longer, apply a bit more heat, see if that does anything. But again, the lines around it, they're behaving as I'd expect, but that big thick line is not budging. So I faffed around for quite a bit, tried to clean it, made no difference, and then I went in for a closer look, and I found this on the screen. It appears to be a burn mark, and that burn mark is directly in line with where that black line was. So either I would suggest that it's developed a fault and someone's come in and tried to fix it at a later date, or this was done while fitting that replacement screen, but it looks like it's been nicked with a soldering iron, and it's burnt through the matrix and destroyed the track for that part of the screen. So unfortunately, again, this one is not one that I'm going to be able to fix. This one needs either live with the black line or replace the screen, which unfortunately means that's another failure. So running at 3 out of 5 at the moment. Let's see what the last one can give me. Battery's in, turn it on. Game seems to boot, but we've got lines again on the screen. Alright, let's get into it. All look fairly clean inside, no obvious signs of corrosion, so just going to tackle those black lines. Again, exactly the same as I've done all video, just nice and slow, just going over the lines, trying to coax them back. Now on this one, it all seems to be centered over to the left hand side, but as I sort of bring these back, let it cool, turn it back on again, in this case the line started to sort of spread more to the middle, and what I ended up doing is just having to go over very lightly again some of the middle areas and just give it a little bit of heat, and then it seemed to be happy. After that, a bit of a clean up again, just clean up the buttons while I'm in here and the contacts, and then putting it back together. So this one's going to be a success, so that leaves the end total at 4 out of 6, and I guess just looking back now, if you have this issue yourself and you're not too afraid of, I guess, of taking things apart, then there's a good chance you're going to be able to sort yours out. I mean, I'd not done this before, and I was able to get the first few working from very little experience at Game Boys. Obviously, hit a couple of issues with 2 of them. We had one that had damage to the screen, and we'd had another with a really bad battery corrosion that caused problems that I wasn't able to sort out. But on the whole, if you've got a Game Boy original that's got vertical missing lines on the screen, and you've got a soldering iron that is temperature controlled, so you can control the heat, then there's a good chance that you'll be able to resurrect these. I hope the video has helped. Thank you for taking this journey with me. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and that will encourage me to make more in the future. Thank you very much.